The distress signal was standard protocol, short, encrypted, and filled with desperation. A minor alien colony on the edge of contested space had been surrounded by hostile forces, expecting only a few relief freighters or maybe a token peacekeeping squad. What they received instead wasn't aid, it was war. And at the front of it were humans, Deathworlders, creatures from a planet so hostile, even their predators fear each other. No one in the galaxy expected Earth to respond, let alone like this. But within 72 hours, the black void above the planet lit up with ships forged from nightmares, humming with silent power, armored like fortresses, and carrying soldiers who had been bred in chaos. The aliens didn't know if they had just been saved or conquered. One thing was certain: this wasn't a rescue. It was an arrival. The message was short, urgent, and wrapped in desperation. Transmitted on all known emergency channels, the signal pinged across dozens of star systems before reaching the outermost edges of the Terran sphere. It came from a colony belonging to the Coral Union, a minor species with limited military capabilities but a strong voice in the Galactic Council. Under siege by a nomadic war clan known as the Drakari, their only hope lay in appealing to anyone who would listen. The Coral expected humanitarian aid, maybe some food, medical supplies, a token security force to stabilize the situation. Their message hadn't even named Earth specifically. It had been a blanket SOCA, call for help from anyone with ships and empathy. What they got was Earth, but not the Earth of diplomats and trade envoys. No, what arrived in orbit was a Terran Strategic Response Fleet, TSRF Black Fleet 7. First sign was the drop in local gravitational readings as the leading capital ship exited its jump. It was massive. Not just by Coral standards, but by anyone's standards. The TSF Ares dwarfed the orbiting Coral communications relay. It cast a shadow over a third of the planet as its gravity well stabilized, trailed by a formation of dreadnoughts, carriers, support frigates, and ECM destroyers. Each ship bore matte black hulls with sharp geometric designs. They were silent, controlled, unflinchingly calm. The Coral command staff on the surface panicked. They hadn't even heard back from the Galactic Council yet. And here was an entire battle group of Deathworlders, the species the galaxy had cautiously labeled as both valuable and volatile. Earth's aid fleets didn't look like that. This wasn't a diplomatic response. This was war. Earth, the Deathworld, Paradox Deathworders. The term had been coined decades ago, originally as an insult, now used as an uneasy recognition of Earth's status in the galactic hierarchy. Earth wasn't just dangerous, it was lethal. Every apex predator evolved to kill. Every ecosystem designed around struggle and conflict. The atmosphere was erratic, the geology unstable, the biosphere filled with diseases, parasites, and evolutionary arms. Races unlike anything the more peaceful worlds of the galaxy had seen. Humans were products of that pressure cooker, a species that didn't just survive but adapted, innovated, and most disturbingly cooperated in violence. Where other civilizations prized peace and tradition, humanity had centuries of conflict, warfare, and tactical evolution. And when the stars opened up to them, they didn't send their weakest. They sent specialists. The Terran Strategic Response Fleet was one such specialist branch. Technically an emergency response division, the TSF was anything but soft. Designed to operate in unstable regions, their job wasn't diplomacy. It was decisive action. They answered calls for help with force, efficiency, and overwhelming presence. The Coral Reaction Planetary Governor Laris Thon could hardly believe it. The Terrans hadn't asked for permission to enter orbit. They had simply declared assistance. Acknowledged. Response in progress. Please maintain civilian containment protocols. Then ships started deploying. What the Coral saw was a terrifying ballet. Thousands of insertion pods launched from orbit, each one containing a fire team of TSF operators. They landed with surgical precision across the besieged zones. In under 30 minutes, more than 100 forward operating bases had been established. Automated defense turrets snapped into position. Airspace was claimed. Supply drones began, offloading mobile field hospitals, power cells, and combat engineers. The Terrans weren't just helping, they were taking control. And then the silence broke. Drukhari resistance meets Deathworld doctrine. The Drukhari had never fought humans before. They had raided multiple border colonies, fought local militias, and even bested a few light cruiser defense fleets. But nothing prepared them for what emerged from the Terran drop zones. The TSF's infantry wasn't comprised of ordinary soldiers. They were clad in exosuits built for adaptability and strength. Artificial musculature amplified their movements. Helmets with neural HUDs gave them real-time battlefield data. Each unit was its own mobile command center, and their tactics? Unlike anything the Drukhari had seen, the humans didn't just push forward, they predicted Drukhari movements. They coordinated across terrain types. They adapted mid-battle, abandoning formations when needed, encircling entire battalions without firing a shot until the trap closed. Within 2 days, the Drukhari front collapsed. Their command ships tried to flee. They didn't make it. Space superiority. A message written in wreckage when the TSF fleet activated its ship-to-ship engagement. Protocols, it wasn't a battle. It was a dismantling. Human vessels used ECM fields that nullified Drukhari sensors. Rail cannons fired magnetically accelerated tungsten rods at relativistic speeds. Drones operated in AI-guided swarms, each capable of independent targeting. Missiles weren't just explosive, they were programmable, capable of weaving between countermeasures. In under 6 hours, the entire Drukhari fleet was either destroyed or disabled. One carrier survived long enough to send a surrender request. It was granted. The crew was evacuated. Then the ship was vaporized from orbit. No salvage. No trophies. This was not about vengeance. It was about certainty. The TSF didn't leave. Reminders. They left warnings. The Galactic Council responds. By the time a delegation from the Galactic Council arrived, it was already over. The Drukhari were gone. The Coral colony had been stabilized. The humans had built clean water systems, temporary shelters, and were vaccinating Coral children against multiple diseases found in the combat zone. Not a single civilian had been harmed. The Council was furious. Officially, Earth had no jurisdiction. Here, the TSF deployment had bypassed diplomatic channels, ignored Council protocols, and used military hardware in a civilian zone. But when they arrived, even the most anti-Terran ambassadors hesitated. Because all they saw was order, efficiency, and a silent fleet in low orbit, still armed, still watching. Earth didn't defend itself with arguments. It defended itself with outcomes. Why Earth responded, an internal memo, later leaked, revealed. The reason Earth had responded so aggressively, it was simple. The Terran doctrine stated, any genuine call for aid shall be answered with overwhelming support. We do not weigh worth. We do not evaluate species. We respond. That was the reality of Deathworld psychology. A species that had clawed its way out of extinction didn't wait for permission to protect. When someone called for help, humanity didn't ask who they were. They just arrived, because on Earth, when someone screams for help, the first to show up is not a negotiator. It's a guardian. Legacy of the encounter. In the weeks that followed, the Coral petitioned the Council to formally recognize Earth's emergency response protocols as valid under galactic law. They also began requesting Terran advisors in matters of planetary defense. Some in the Council feared this was a slow Terran colonization effort. Others argued it was a new galactic standard being set. One ambassador phrased it best, they didn't come to rule. They came because someone asked for help. And when humans help ... they go all in. The Dracari never attacked again. Rumors said their remaining war clans had begun mapping Deathworlder routes, placing red zones around Terran-controlled space. Fear, it seemed, was now a deterrent. Final transmission before leaving orbit. The TSF broadcast one final encrypted message to the Quorl governor. Assistance completed. Future threats will be monitored. Remain safe. No medals were given. Number. Soldiers took credit. The Terran ships vanished into jump space, returning to whatever black-coated readiness zone they were pulled from. The stars were silent again, but every colony, every species, every warlord who monitored the event understood one thing. When you call for help, you might get aid. You might get food, water, medical care, or you might get Earth. And if Earth answers ... you better pray you're not the one they're coming for.